The creek said nothing about the blood. Elias Gray came out of the live oaks with a canteen and a soldier's caution and saw the girl half in the water where the rocks went slick. She had one boot on, one boot off, and a dress torn above the knee. She lifted her head like a hurt doe and flattened her palm. "Just kill me fast," she said, voice scraped thin. "Quicker than they will." "I don't aim to kill you," Elias answered. He slid down the bank, let the canteen kiss the water and wet a cloth. "I aim to keep you upright if you'll let me." Up close the story sharpened. 19, he reckoned, hair roped with sweat, jaw set to outstare pain. Her leg was cut, ugly with gravel and creek silt. He tucked his coat beneath her head, set the cloth to the wound, and asked the question a man asks when the trail splits. "Name?" "Maeve," she said. "Tucker." He cleaned without hurry, as if gentleness were a kind of law. When he lifted the torn hem to rinse the blood away, he saw it burned into the skin high on her thigh, black and deliberate as a brand. Property. Maeve saw him see it. Her jaw shook once and then stopped. "Stockyard," she said. "Debt meat. I ran." Elias folded the skirt down as if modesty could be rebuilt like a fence. "Then you keep running," he said. "I'll walk beside." She searched his face, for the hitch every offer carries. She did not find it. "They'll come," she said. "They always do." "So will weather," he said. But a man can set posts against both. He stitched the cut with neat wagon stitch pulls, talking. "Low, wind's wrong for fever, lucky there." She watched the clouds and breathed when he told her. He tore a strip from his undershirt for a bandage, wrapped it firmly, and gave back the edge of her dignity by asking before he touched. When he lifted her, she weighed like nothing and everything, and he knew the day had decided itself. "My cabin's 2 miles, he said. "Creek all the way. If you want out, say so. I'll leave food and a blanket and turn my back. If you want in, we'll set rules and a bar across the door that listens to you first." Maeve nodded once. They moved slowly along the creek's shade. Elias led the mule. Maeve leaned into the saddle and borrowed the animal's steadiness. A shallow ford thunder spoke from far hills. She flinched, then held steady. "What do they call the man who stamped you?" he asked. "Beasley," she said. "Says sheriff. Wears a tin star he bought and a smile he didn't." Elias kept, his face plain. "I've met his kind." The cabin shouldered into view. Stone a man had lifted, porch rail rubbed smooth by nights of thinking. He unlatched the door and let the interior tell its truth. A table square to the room, a stove that held heat, a bed and a pallet, and a bar that could hold. "Fire first," he said. "Then coffee. Then what do you want?" Maeve stood just inside, measuring corners, windows, distances. Her eyes took the bar, then the empty chair, then Elias's hands flat on the table where he set them. "I don't touch without asking," he said, shaping the words slowly. "You set the bar when you please. You eat at my table until you don't. No papers take you out that door unless they're true." "What if they are?" she asked. "Then we make better ones," he said. "Or we burn the bad." The fire took. Elias poured hot water over willow and mint to fool the ache. He handed Maeve the cup like an oath instead of a thing. She sipped. "I ain't deaf," she said. "I hear a lie coming a mile." "Then you'll hear me," he said. He found a folded scrap and a pencil ground short. He wrote, "This house answers to Maeve Tucker and Elias Gray. No other names." He slid it across. She read. She put her finger on her name and pushed back. Outside, the wind tested the eaves. Inside, they inventoried for the next hour. Bandage, coffee, bread if he could coax. Sleep if she trusted the dark. Danger? He asked. "Always," she said. Then, after a swallow, "Less here." He set the bar where she could reach it. She lifted it, felt its honest weight, and let it fall into its brackets. The sound was modest but final. In that sound, a life took a step. Elias looked at the brand no more that night. He looked at the person who wore it and thought, "We will write over it with something that holds together. Daybreak came with work already waiting. Elias banked the coals, swung a skillet over the blue heart of the stove, and listened to wind ease down the draw. Behind him, the girl slept, breathing evenly. He set coffee to boil and tore linen from a flour sack. When he checked the bandage, he warned her first. Touching now. She woke quickly, eyes clear, and did not flinch when he unwound the cloth. The stitches held. The shine had dulled. "You do good work," she said. "Soldiers learn two things," he said. "How to break a body and how to deny it to death. I favor the second." He rinsed, dabbed carbolic, wrapped fresh, then set his palms flat on the table so she could see he was done. "What's the price for shelter?" she asked. "Work split by weather and strength," he said. "No debt you didn't make. No hands laid without asking. If I fail any part, I say it out loud by this stove. I can cook, mend, clean a gun, and read a river by its edges," she said. "I'm not much for talk." "Talk's a tool," he said. "We'll use only the ones we need." He poured coffee, cut bacon short, and set corn cakes in the fat. Maeve's gaze snagged the door bar. She limped to it, lifted and set it twice as if teaching her hands the movement. She left it down, a sign that the morning could come in and not surprise her. They ate like people who meant to stay fed. "What were you before a soldier?" she asked. "Boy with a mule string," he said. "After the war I started over thicker. I was a seamstress until the bill I didn't make grew teeth," she said. "They called it debt. It was a loop and a knot. Then we cut it," he said. After breakfast he handed her a broom, then paused. "Only if you want it." She took it and found every place dirt thought it could settle. When she finished, she wrote with a coal stub on a scrap, "I will earn my keep." He folded the fee note and tucked it on a shelf like a paper oath. "Water?" she asked, pointing creekward. "Buckets there. I'll walk with you." They stepped into the light. At the bench she stopped, chin tipped. "Writer?" Elias asked. "One," she said. "Not in a hurry. Left knee favors. Iron shoes." Presently, sound came. Metal on stone. He nodded. "You hear more than most men with both ears open." "Fear taught it," she said. They filled the bucket, took a higher path, screened by shin oak. The traveler passed below, a freighter with a tarp-choked wagon and a rosary on the brake handle. No trouble today. At the cabin, Elias fetched a cloth-wrapped bundle from a chest. "Gift," he said, laying it on the table. "Only if you want it." Inside lay creek-colored calico and a bone-handled needle case. "For a new hem," he said. "Not to hide, to give you the say." She did not touch it at first. When she reached, her fingers were steady. "I'll take the say," she said. He set a chair by the window and planned to push it away. She folded the torn edge under and sewed stubborn stitches. By midday, the sun leaned. He walked the pasture line, dug around a post that had started to wander. Maeve followed with a pail of staples, handing what he needed before he asked. At the trough, she soothed the old mule with a palm under its jaw. The animal dropped its head. They rested on the porch steps. A windmill clicked somewhere. "You got anyone in town who'd sell you for a price?" Elias asked. "No one who owns me," she said. "But a drunk might try to earn a reward on rumor." "Then we go carefully when we must," he said. "And we go together." She looked at him. The look held warning and a little hope. "I don't faint," she said. "I fight. If that gets you shot, I'll carry you if I have to." He didn't smile. "Then I'll try not to be heavy." Afternoon fell. He cooked beans and pork. She cut onions fine. She washed the one good plate. He set his knife on the table where she could reach it if night brought hands that did not ask. When they barred the door, she did it without ceremony. Elias banked the fire and laid a blanket on the pallet. "What's the rule?" she asked. "Simple," he said. "Tell the truth quickly. Stand together. Leave if staying turns into a lie." For the first time since the creek, she let her shoulders loosen. Outside, wind walked the draws. Inside, two people learned the weight of quiet that isn't empty. The wind changed its mind mid-breath. By noon, the draw lay bright as a blade. Elias split kindling to length and let the rhythm square his head. Maeve moved through the cabin like a field hand. Floor swept, shelf wiped, kettle set just off the boil so coffee leaned toward Patience. She wrote a list on scrap, water, wood, stitches, quiet, and passed it across. Add rest, he said. She shook her head. Rest sits better after doing. They walked the fence where the shin oak kept trying to be a tree. Elias carried a wire, Maeve the staple pouch. When a post leaned, she saw it first, set her heel, and nudged it true. He liked how she didn't waste words flattering the easy. At the far bend, the creek shouldered narrow through rock. A dragonfly hung blue above the riffle. Maeve stopped so suddenly that the mule checked. What is it? He asked. She pointed 2 fingers upstream, then drew them down fast to the stones. Her face went still. Rise, she said. The sky above them carried no threat, but north a cloudburst had dumped its anger into a hard gully. Elias tasted grit. He felt it then, the ground's low tremor. Out, he said. Maeve already had the mule turned. They scrambled the bank as brown water shouldered through the narrows, folding sun into churn. The surge slapped the rocks where her boot prints had been. Elias breathed once. You here with your feet. Sometimes with scar, she said, touching the brand through cloth like a person might touch a barometer. Storms leave echoes. They cut across blue stem, where wind played the heads like beads. A hiss came from the porch, the old kind, not the kind men make. A coil lay in the shade by the step, gray as a plank, yellow eyes pinned to light. Back, Elias said. Maeve eased to her heel, calculating. She lowered the bucket like an offering and picked up the long-handled hoe. When the snake drew tight to strike, she slid the blade in front of its head, firm as a door closing. One press. The tension left the body. She lifted the limp length with respect and laid it in the scrub away from the house and path. Elias swore, then checked himself. You didn't even blink. She wiped the blade on dry sand. Blinkings for after. He cut her a walking stick from cedar and shaved it smooth. For the leg, he said, and for snakes we don't see. She weighed the stick. I'll pay with beans and a floor that shines, she said, and with this. She held out his shirt sleeve, mended neatly, the tear vanished in tiny stitches. He looked at the seam and sobered. Fair trade. They ate a late meal, small and hot. He set a chip of mirror on the shelf. She saw it, hesitated, then faced herself, like a rider faces weather, square, unflinching. She did not lift her skirt. She lifted her chin. Town tomorrow, he said. Salt, flour, carbolic, and a bullet mold. We keep together and keep quiet. Quiet can be loud if a drunk smells money, she said. We'll take the creek road and the alley behind the mercantile, he answered. Hats down. No hurry, no hiding. She nodded. If hands come, I'll choose where mine land. I'll be beside, he said. Toward evening, she brought the Bible from the chest. She traced the words and did not read aloud. Some pages. Help a person keep a spine, she said. He sharpened his knife and let the edge say yes. When the heat went out of the day, they sat on the steps and listened to quail rehearse their names. Maeve rolled the cedar stick under her palm, learning its balance. I don't faint, she said again, as if the creek might have doubted. If I fall, it's forward. You fell into the only kind of help I know how to give, he said. Then, we both got lucky. He plaited a short rawhide strip while the light lasted. For your hair, he said, or your wrist when you don't want to think about wrists. She tied her braid with 2 tugs. Better, she said, and meant more than the knot. Night rose out of the drawers. Moths found the lamp's idea and tested it. Elias stood the rifle in the corner because a day that teaches you about water may bring you a man too. Maeve set the bar home and breathed like a person who expects to wake. Town, he said again to hear how the word felt. Town. She echoed, and the room took the sound and held it. They slept in turns, not from fear but habit. The creek kept its counsel. Far off, thunder rolled as a warning that chose to wait. The town wore its dust like a badge. They took the creek road, hats down, tied in the alley behind the mercantile. Elias eased the rear door. A bell spoke. Mrs. Lark, sleeves rolled, gave them the measure. Salt, flour, carbolic, and a mold for 44s, Elias said. Her gaze touched Maeve's limp, then the neat hem. Coin is coin, she said, soft with risk. She filled the list and tucked in a twist of horehound for free. Maeve stood quiet, cedar stick low, chin level. Elias paid cash. The bell rang again. Whiskey came first. Pike, red-eyed and stitched, with trouble, squinted at Maeve and worked the room with his grin. Ain't that one of Beasley's? He said. Bet there's silver for bringing her back. Maeve didn't look at him. She looked at Elias as riders look at the angle of a fall. Elias set the sack down and turned with his hands open. Leave. The Lady B. Wasn't talking to you, Pike said. Then hear me. Elias answered. Leave. The Lady B. Mrs. Lark slid a short shotgun onto the counter. 2 loafers vanished into other aisles. Beasley's the law, Pike said. Star says so. Tin bought in a saloon isn't law, Elias said. It's a costume. Pike edged right, breath-hunting Maeve. She pivoted, the cedar rose just enough to warn. Back door, Mrs. Lark murmured. Alley, then livery. Elias lifted the flower. Maeve paced tight to his elbow. At the threshold, Pike lunged for linen. Her stick snapped his knuckles quick and clean. He yelped. The sack stayed theirs. They slipped through the storeroom and into the alley's iron heat. At the liver, a thin man blinked. Paying or owing? Paying, Elias said, setting a coin sufficient to buy patience. 2 minutes. Voices stirred. Reward traveled like a burr. Boots forgot to be polite. Maeve touched Elias's sleeve. Go. They loaded fast and walked, not ran. Running turns a street into a chase. By the church, the bell kept its manners. Pike stepped onto Main with 2 men and a story swelling. Beasley'll want his property, he called. The word rang wrong. Maeve stopped. Palms up, not surrender. Refusal. I ain't property, she said, clear enough to make air remember. Silence stepped toward decency. Not all the way. A rider drew rein near the bank. Samuel Cross from the North Places. Quiet hat. Quiet eyes. He watched like a man checking a windmill. He did not interfere. Mrs. Lark appeared with the shotgun held like a broom. Pike, buy soap or take your dirt elsewhere. Short of friends now, Pike spat. Beasley'll hear. Maybe he should, Elias said. Maybe he should hear a town knows paper from people. They turned the corner and were gone. The creek road home wore no eyes. At the bend, Maeve spoke what both knew. He'll sell it to Beasley, Elias nodded. He will. What? Now? We set the place to steady, he said. Friends stay unnamed. Then I go back alone and look that bought star in the face. And if he makes you choose? Then I remember what we said. Tell the truth quickly. Stand together. Leave if staying turns into a lie. She drew breath and let it go evenly. I'll lay out bandages, water, and coffee. They climbed to the porch. Maeve lifted the bar, set it down. Inside, flour stacked and carbolic high. Elias checked the rifle and oiled the hinge that complained. You leave at dawn? She asked. Before, if the stars cooperate. I'll be here, she said. Not hiding. Making ready. They ate beans and divided quietly. After he sketched, alleys and the stairs to Beasley's office. Maeve marked vantage with a nail tip, the window that saw 2 streets, the back stair where a man could hear without being counted. You've scouted worse, she said. I've survived worse, he said. She set her hand on the map. Come back, she said, plain as a fence. I plan to, he answered. Planning's promised to try. Night came on with its honest business. She rolled bandages, tucked willow bark where a hand would find it. He set coffee, lock, bar, rifle, lamp, rituals that turn fear into order. Elias wrote 2 names on a scrap, Maeve Tucker, Elias Gray, and put it under a cup to keep the night from blowing it off the table. "You sleep some," she said. "We'll split it and cheat neither." They did. Somewhere up canyon, a coyote tried a story and quit. The stars cooperated. Before the light had a color, Elias saddled. Maeve handed him coffee and the look a person gives a man she trusts to do the brave thing and the smart thing together. "Listen," she said. "To him?" Elias asked. "To everything," she said. He touched the brim, and the door let him go. He rode eastward. The star on his vest tried to pass for law. Elias rode in before the sun chose a color. He tied in the alley, climbed the back stairs, and stepped into an office that smelled of cigar and varnish. Jonah Beasley sat with boots on the desk and a smile that had learned everything except honesty. The tin star on his vest flashed. "You're Elias Gray," Beasley said. "You picked up something that ran from me." "I picked up a person," Elias said. "I don't return people." Beasley spread papers like a crooked hand. "Affidavits, bill of sale, contract against debt, mark of ownership present. Bring the girl back and I'll pay. Refuse and the bounty boys collect." "What judge?" Elias asked. "The traveling kind." "Name him." Silence. A heavy deputy filled the door. A clerk licked a pencil. Elias eyed the seal. Ink bled where clean law keeps an edge. The stamp was church, not court. "You forged a sermon into a sentence," he said. "It won't hold." "It will until Waite says otherwise," Beasley answered. "Meanwhile, you're harboring property." "Say that again and I'll make you eat it," Elias said quietly. The deputy's hand drifted to his gun. Beasley stood. "Order keeps. Widows from starving. Men owe, men pay, girls work, debts die. That's arithmetic. Your arithmetic is a noose. Bring her by sundown tomorrow," Beasley said, eyes gone flat. "Or I'll send my boys after dark. They have a way with doors." Elias noticed the ledger. First line TM. Scar noted. Reward. He filed the deputies' and clerks' names for later. "My answer now," Beasley said. "No," Elias told him. "I am the law. You're a costume. Law is the thing under the coat." Beasley waved him off. "Go make your fort. When the sun's down, you'll hear horses." Elias left by the stairs, bought caps and led at Lark's and took the creek road where cottonwoods don't talk. A mile out, he cut the Eigen. He hadn't left. 2 riders, fresh, pausing at the ford to light cigarettes. One horse carried a rolled blanket for night work. Bounty boys already sniffed. At the cabin, Maeve had water heating and the table cleared to clean guns. "Well, he's sending men after dark. Papers lie. The star is thin through." "Then we answer with truth and a bar," she said, "and with the distance between us and the door." They set the place for a storm. He braced a bench where a shoulder would find surprise. She strung a line low to trip in a hurry. He sighted the rifle from the shadow between the stove and the window. She measured powder like a seamstress marks him, exact, unforgiving. "Lantern? Low and behind us. Neighbors? None we can risk." Cross looked like a man adding columns. "If he comes, it will be after he knows which numbers are honest." "Then it's tonight," Maeve said. "Tonight." They ate early, bread and coffee. He said what a man ought to do before the first shot. "If I fall, you run only far enough for cover, then keep shooting. If you fall, I make them pay." She said, "Then I choose where I go." "Choose here if you can." She gripped his forearm once. "I hear you." Dusk slid into the draw. Far on the ridge, iron struck iron. Small rings of sound. Elias tested the door with his palm and felt the wood answer. He saddled, rode a short loop to count shadows, and saw 2 riders at the ford and another horse waiting in the trees above the cabin, patient, not local. He circled wide, came in from the rocks, and slipped through the back. Maeve had laid out bandages. "Positions? You're at the table for the first knock. Shoot low through the bench if they crowd. I'll take the sill and the north window. Lamp, ready?" Window latch loose. If they toss fire, pitch it back. She fetched a wet sack for that. He tied a bell string to the rear hinge so a quiet hand would tattle. They sat and let the house breathe. Coyotes yipped and quit. An owl spoke once. He thought of Beasley's ink in the creek where a girl had asked to die quickly, and then chosen not to. He loaded his last cylinder and laid the gun flat. Hoofbeats came soft as moths. A saddle creaked. Leather brushed wood. A man breathed on the other side of the plank as if testing the taste of it. Maeve raised her eyes to his. No fear there, only a line she meant to hold. The latch lifted a hair against the bell string and sang a small note that meant everything. Elias sighted, steady as a fence post driven to hardpan. Let the star shine, he whispered. Night will tell what it's worth. We were ready now. The latch whispered before the men did. The bell string chimed once and a hand tasted the wood. Elias matched his breath to the rifle's lay. Maeve sat at the table with the lamp low behind the stove, cedar stick across her knees. Push, a voice breathed. The latch lifted. The bench took the hit and shoved back. A boot scuffed over Maeve's trip line. A man pitched to a knee with a strangled curse. Maeve fired under the bench as planned. The slug bit the shin. He howled. That ended, quietly. 2 more bodies crowded. Elias's first shot split the jam. The second took a shoulder through the gap. Boots argued about priority. A bottle swung in wet with coal oil, glass wrapped in twine. Maeve was waiting. The wet sack ate the flame, and with one hard throw, she slapped the bottle back into the yard where it blossomed harmless against dirt. Hold your line, another voice hissed. Command in it. Smoke 'em. Rig Harlan, Elias said under his breath, recognizing the tone. The north window creaked. Elias slid and shot the hinge. A pistol cracked back and found him anyway, low. Fire grabbed his side under the ribs and tried to take his legs. Maeve hauled him behind the stove's iron. Stay with me, she said. Rib, he said, not lung. He believed it to steady his hands. She shoved a folded flour sack against the wound and made his palm hold it. With her other hand, she popped the cylinder, fed cartridges, and slid back to the table's shadow. Throw another fire bottle, Rig ordered. Make me, Maeve said, and hit the voice. A man fell hard against the jam and took the spark. With him. 3 shots answered. 2 into the door, 1 through the north gap to keep Elias pinned. He tasted metal and held pressure. Boots scuffed where the trip line waited to reprove a fool. The fool learned. He fell. Maeve punched the lead into the dirt near his hands, close enough to change his religion. Back wall, Rig barked. Window! A shadow rose there. Maeve had set a chip of mirror on the shelf. Now she caught the lamp and tilted it. Light flashed into the window at eye height. The shadow blinked. Elias used that blink and sent a shot through the bright. The man hit the sill and stayed. 2 more, Elias said, counting calmly to bleed less. 2, Maeve echoed. She cracked the kettle. Steam shouldered out and crawled low. When the next boots rushed, the steam found faces. Their shots went wild into the plank. Elias's side burned. Rig slid to the darkest corner and lifted a Colt. He waited for Maeve's shoulder when she leaned. Left, Elias rasped. She changed the rhythm and came up from the right, low. Her shot took Rig where men keep breath. He sank. His pistol fired once into the porch roof and burned a line nobody would brag on. The last man broke. He ran for cottonwoods and a horse that didn't know him. Elias let him go. Killing for bookkeeping sours a man. Quiet held the doorway. Maeve stood in it, cedar across her arm, pistol still, listening for an echo that needed answering. None came. She turned and dropped to Elias. The sack was red. She peeled it back. The hole sat high and ugly, mostly through. In and out, she said. Hold. I am, he said. She boiled water, poured carbolic, and laid clean cloths like scripture. Needle and gut came out of the bone-handled case he'd given her. She stitched him hard and neatly while he gripped the table leg. Talk, she said. Keep here. He told her about a blue roan that could untie any knot. About a winter where coffee saved a camp from killing itself. She counted both words and blood. When the bleeding answered to her hand, she wrapped him tight, brewed willow, and set it close. "They'll come again," she said. "Beasley will bring paper to wave." "While he shoots," Elias answered. "Then we leave by the creek," she said. "While dark still has corners." He looked at the bar. "I hate running from my own table. We're running toward a place where it's ours longer," Maeve said. He managed half a grin. "You're right." She packed quietly. Caps, lead, bread, needle kit, Bible, the alley map she'd marked. She left the mirror. It had done its job. They slipped out the back, keeping where cottonwoods lay their longest shadows. The mule stepped softly, reading her hands. Elias rode, his breath counted by a woman who had chosen not to die and had chosen him besides. The creek held its counsel. Stars took up their posts. Dawn would find tracks in a cold stove. They meant to be elsewhere before the crows argued daylight. The mesquite did not care who bled. Maeve kept the mule in the creek where stones scuffed sound into the current and the smell went downstream. Elias rode slumped, hat brim low, his shirt bound tight with flour sack cloth. The wound had quit speaking in pulses. It still talked. Dawn came thin under the live oaks and the water wore the first color of day like a secret. "Hold," she said, "palm up." They listened. The land said what it always says. Dove, wind, a calf bawling miles off. Under that, a smaller thing. Iron against iron. Careful. She pointed 2 fingers back along the draw and made a small circle in the air. "Riders patient." "We take the shelf," Elias said. "Limestone cut, good shade." She nodded and steered the mule into a side gully, where cedar and shin oak had conspired to make a tunnel. In the cut, she set him down, lifted the bandage, and checked stitches. "You're warm," she said. "Not wrong yet, but warm." "Water," he managed. She tilted the canteen slowly. Then she tore a fresh strip and set it cool over the wrap. "You breathe. I'll watch," she said. She climbed the gully lip on her elbows and eyes. From there, the country flattened into pale gold and thorn, cut by arroyos like lines in an old palm. Dust hung low on the south ridge. 6 men, then 2 more farther out. A net learning its job. Maeve slid back. "South and east," she said. "They're walking us toward the open." "Where the papers look bigger," Elias said. They moved again, short and straight, never where a guess would put them. Mid-morning, they reached a shallow ford that cut the road like a white scar. That was where Beasley waited. Hat neat, coat brushed, star catching a sun he hadn't earned. 3 men sat their saddles behind him. 2 more edged the mesquite, rifles cool and high. "Mornin'," Beasley called, smile not touching his eyes. He raised a folded packet, wax shone. "I brought the truth. Affidavit, bill of sale, mark of ownership. Hand her over and ride home a free man." Maeve put the mule between Elias and the rifles and stepped down, cedar stick hanging easily. "I'm not a bill of anything," she said. Beasley glanced at the brand through the torn hem as if looking for his name on a crate. "That mark says otherwise," he said. "You ran off with a debt. We collect what's due." Elias sat straighter. "You forged a church seal into court," he said. "Ink's wrong, edge is wrong, even your words are wrong." Beasley laughed softly. "Words are what the man with the star says they are." A rifle cracked from the mesquite. Rock chipped a foot from Elias's boot, a warning shot with manners. Maeve did not flinch. She measured the sound and set the shooter's roost in her head. High limb, left of the leaning cedar, 40 paces. Wind is light out of the west. "See?" Beasley said. "My men are patient. Yours should be too. Dismount slowly, Gray. Let me tie you before you fall off and embarrass us all." Elias swung his leg without letting weakness show. He put both boots down and took his hand off the horn so nobody would think the colt beneath mattered more than it did. Maeve stepped closer to him and stood where flesh could catch lead meant for paper. "What buys you?" she asked Beasley. "Cash, power, the sound you make when people move for you." "Order," he said. "A place where every debt has a ledger and everybody has a use. You don't like the words, but the town does. They'll thank me when I'm done." Town thanked us last night, Elias said. Beasley's eyes thinned. A town thanks whoever stands last. He lifted the packet toward Maeve as if offering bread. She saw the trick then. The ribbon long enough to hide a derringer, the thumb set just so on the fold. Let the girl read her future, he said, then hand it back gently. She lifted her palms shoulder high. I'll read it, she said, if you swear to let him ride to a doctor while I do. Done, Beasley said too quickly. Tie him first, then we'll be gentlemen. The mesquite whispered. Two men easing out looped rawhide ready. The rifleman shifted on the limb, a leaf trembling where his barrel kissed it. Maeve breathed and filed distances. 4 strides to Beasley's wrist, 5 to the nearest horse, 3 to the arroyo lip. The derringer's mouth would be in the crease at his knuckle. Most men miss at that range because they like the idea more than the shot. Elias's voice came small and dry behind her. Don't. She didn't look back. We tell the truth quickly, she said. Here's mine. I will not go in a crate. Softer only for him, and I am not leaving you. Cross wasn't here. The road held no help. It would be her hands or nothing. Beasley nodded to the men with the thongs. Kindly, Rawhide rasped. Sun found brass. Maeve lowered her hands, slow, as if giving up. She bent for the papers, let the ribbon slide over her fingers. Her eyes never left Beasley's. She saw the moment he chose contempt over caution. The thumb twitched. The small barrel winked. Easy, he said. Easy, she echoed. She straightened a hair, shoulders canted like a dancer learning a new step. Wind stroked the grass west to east. The rifleman found his breath and settled it on Elias's chest. Maeve's right hand gathered like a spring remembering itself. Then she moved. The first shot belonged to her. Maeve's right hand broke like a whip from slack. The ribbon flicked Beasley's wrist. The derringer coughed into the sky. Her colt barked once from the hip. Beasley's star jumped, and he folded as if the tin had finally learned it was only tin. Guns! Someone screamed. The limb rifle fired and clipped Elias's hat clean. He planted and sent an answer into the leaf tremor. A man tumbled out of mesquite, rifle clattering like a bad idea hitting stone. 2 riders spurred in with rawhide swinging. Maeve slid sideways, let the first loop kiss air, then smashed her cedar stick into the pony's face. The animal checked. The loop man ate sand. The second rider tried to flank Elias. Maeve shot his reins. Leather parted. Horse and man both reconsidered. Loyalty. Beasley wheezed, reaching for the paper packet as if its lies could lift him. Maeve kicked it into the arroyo. Your words don't walk here, she said. Lead stitched the road. Dust jumped. Elias backed up to a limestone cut and set. His shoulder. He fired measured 1-2. Maeve used the wash's lip, small and fast, every shot a choice. Back out, a bounty hand yelled. She ain't human. She's free, Elias said, and took the man's hat brim to emphasize grammar. 3 of Beasley's men hunched on the far side. 1 found courage and rose with a shotgun. Maeve threw herself across Elias long enough to steal his shadow. The blast chewed rock where he'd been. Her return shot took the hinge out of the shotgunner's will. He sat and stayed. Hooves came, hard from the north. Riders crested the low ridge at a run, sun on their hats. Samuel Cross led, calm in the saddle, rifle easy. His outfit flowed behind with lassos and Winchesters. Stand off, Cross called, a voice that made the air straighten. Hands high if you're tired of lies. One of Beasley's crew spun and fired. Cross's second put him over his own spur. Another broke for the live oaks. A loop found him, and the ground did the rest. Cross drew up, horse edging at the stink of powder. He swept the field once, Elias white around the mouth, Maeve steady, Beasley coughing pink. I'll take the law from here. No law here, a bounty hand spat. Cross lifted, a leather folder sealed in green wax. Circuit Judge Boswell's hand, he said. Affidavits from Lark, Hale at the bank, and Reverend Poole, whose church seal you skinned for your paper tricks. The judge's marshal sits in my kitchen with 2 girls you stamped and tried. To sell twice, argue signatures, ride with me, or throw down and be counted. Beasley tried to spit and found the floor crowded. You don't speak for the county. I speak for the truth you failed, Cross said, nudging Beasley's star with his boot. Tin over rot. 2 bounty men cast down pistols. The last stayed twitchy, eyes on Maeve as if she were a bounty herself. He jerked a rifle up. She shot first. He folded like a wet canvas. Silence came suddenly. Cross swung down. Gray, he said, you look like death's understudy. Can you stand? I've been worse and lied about it, Elias said. Cross's men kicked weapons away and started knots. One cut Beasley's coat and found the stolen church stamp. Here's the seal, he said, and here's the Bible he took it from. Cross faced Maeve as a man faces the weather he respects. Miss Tucker, he said, you're not property. On paper and off. This is over. Her chest hitched once. She kept the gun down, chin up. It ends when he's not breathing, she said, nodding at Beasley. Beasley moved enough to keep hatred human. You'll hang, he rasped. Not today, she said. Cross knelt, studied the wound, and let mercy show. Marshall'll want him breathing enough to write names, he said. If he dies on the way, I was never a doctor. He stood. We're riding to town. Lark's back room for triage. Poole's vestry for paper. Hale's safe for evidence. You two are under my word. Elias looked to Maeve. He would follow her. Choice. She holstered, stepped to him, and set her palm where the bandage bound. We go, she said. We finish. Cross nodded. Good, he said. And Gray, nice shooting. Miss Tucker, better. They formed a moving circle. The guilty, tied in its center, the innocent ringed around. The road toward town felt different already, as if the dust decided to settle straighter. Maeve rode close to Elias's knee. He breathed in counts. She kept her eyes ahead and her ears on his breath. Behind them, the arroyo held Beasley's papers, like trash the wind refused to carry. Ahead, a bell waited to ring the right kind of news. The bell told the truth before any man did. Cross's riders pushed a circle through Maine, dust walking with them. Mrs. Lark swung her door wide and pointed them to the back, where shelves of flower and lamp chimneys gave way to a clean table. Reverend Poole brought a basin and his narrow blue eyes. Hale from the bank came with a ledger under his arm and the face of a man ready to be done with pretending. Back room, Lark said. I boiled what I could. Put him down. Maeve eased Elias to the table. She cut his bandage, inspected the wound, and gave Poole a nod that meant prayer was welcome and talk was not. Poole bowed his head and used 10 words to say 2 things, mercy and steadiness, then fetched carbolic. Out front, Cross's men tied Beasley to a chair where the town could see the star and his failure. The stolen church seal lay on Lark's counter beside Beasley's packet, wax smeared like a lie that had run in the heat. 2 of Beasley's clerks, faces pale as tallow, stared as if language had changed without them. Look closely, Crossy said, tapping the seal with his finger. Reverend? Poole stepped forward, spectacles perched. My stamp, he said, voice flat. Cut from our vestry drawer. This paper bears no court's hand, it bears theft. Hale opened his ledger and showed pages where widows' remittances ended up in Beasley's pocket. He took fees for safekeeping and spent them, Hale said. Names, dates, sums, inks sober. Maeve threaded gut and set her jaw. Elias held the table leg and breathed to her count. In, she said. Out. The needle bit. His hand never left wood. Beasley tried a smile. You'll miss the order when it's gone, he said. Order isn't a cage, Cross answered. It's a gate that swings on good hinges. 2 girls slipped from behind Cross's riders, thin, branded, but upright. One stood by Maeve and put 2 fingers on the table beside Elias's arm, as if lending steadiness. Lark moved them behind. The counter, like hens, returned to a safe roost. The judge's marshal arrived from Cross's place, badge plain, eyes tired. He listened, looked, and did the small, hard work that makes a day useful. He took statements. Lark told of Pike in the alley. Hale spoke ledger. Poole swore his seal. Cross named names. When it came to Maeve, she used 15 words, none wasted. He branded me, he sold what he could not own, he sent men to kill. You shot him? The marshal asked. He pointed a gun from inside the paper, she said. It was still a gun. Good enough, the marshal said and wrote. Elias's bleeding came to heal under Maeve's hands. She tied the last knot, swabbed carbolic, and wrapped him tight, then tucked her fear back where it belonged and let her face be what he needed, steady, unafraid. He found her eyes, took a breath that tasted like iron and coffee, and felt the world decide to continue. Outside, a handful of men tried on bluster and found it didn't fit. Pike hovered until Lark laid the shotgun near his appetite, and he remembered another store that could stand his business. The town shifted 1 inch toward itself. The marshal read halting charges in a voice made for barns, not courts. Forgery, kidnapping, assault, theft, unlawful confinement. He looked at Beasley. You'll ride to Boswell under irons. Beasley worked his mouth around hate and found no purchase. You'll beg me back, he rasped. No, Poole said. We'll just mend what you broke. Cross turned to Maeve and Elias. My cook has a spare bed, he said. But I reckon you'd rather your own roof. Our roof is scorched and shot, Elias said. Then we will help you build one that keeps the weather where it belongs, Cross answered. Today you rest. Maeve set a palm on Elias's shoulder. We'll go home, she said. Slow. Poole leaned close. Miss Tucker, he said, gentler now. The seal is back where it belongs. When you want a piece of paper that speaks decent truth, I'll write it. It can say what you choose, your name whole, your freedom plain. Maeve's throat worked. She nodded once. Later, she said, after he heals. Hale cleared his throat, the sound of an old apology. We failed you when the first rumor grew legs, he said. The bank will carry lumber on terms that aren't teeth. Thank you, Maeve said, and made it mean exactly that. They settled Beasley's men in the jail wagon and sent them creaking toward Boswell. Cross's riders scattered to fetch tools and decent gossip. Lark pressed a sack into Maeve's hands, sugar, coffee, thread, and a bolt of stout muslin. For curtains, she said, or bandages, your choice. Elias sat up with Maeve's help. He found paper and laboriously wrote with hands that remembered control, not flourish. Stay with me, build. When he looked up, the room fell away. Maeve read, traced the words with a fingertip, and wrote back, small and sure, yes, walk. She added, in ink what she had been saying indeed since the creek, together. Poole smiled like a man who had seen a verse find flesh. Bring that to me when you want it read aloud, he said. I know the words and the pauses. Cross's wagon bore them home slow, the kind of slow that keeps stitches honest. The road had another look now, as if it had been told its own name, and liked the sound. At the cabin, neighbors waited without crowding. Someone had patched the porch rail. Someone had swept the dirt where blood had dried. A bucket sat by the door, full and patient. Maeve barred the door, then lifted the bar again, to prove it answered. She folded Lark's muslin, set Poole's basin by the stove, and laid Elias flat where lamplight could mind him. Outside, the wind took the last of the gunpowder smell and left cedar. He reached for her hand. We tell it quick, he said, voice thin but steady. I love you. She did not cry. She bent. Her forehead found his. Then hear me. I choose you. When paper is straight and you can stand in a good shirt, we'll make it plain to the town. He breathed once like a man who had just been paid in coins that he spent anywhere. Done, he said. The bell far away rang once more. It sounded like a gate swinging true. Spring showed up with its sleeves rolled. They took the road home slowly and let the country set the pace. Cedar kept its clean bite. The creek talked in small voices. Elias rode upright now, color honest again, stitches steady under clean linen. Maeve kept to his knee, counting the day by his breath and how his eyes met hers without apology. The town sent boards and nails. Cross sent men with square minds. Reverend Poole sent a paper naming her free in ink that belongs to truth. They rebuilt, without speeches. Elias laid the sills level and listened to Plum like a hymn. Maeve braced corners with a steadiness that made timber cooperate. The new roof wore doubled braces and a ridge that would not lie. Windows faced coffee and evening both. She sewed curtains from Lark's stout muslin and left them open more than not. The brand healed dark. She neither hid it nor preached it. It was a map she had walked. Neighbors drifted to the work the way people do when talk have learned manners. Harv Tally brought a gate and no excuses. Kerr's wife shared a salve that pulls heat from old hurts. The marshal rattled by with Beasley's men in irons and tipped his hat without flourish. Beasley did not return. Some things quit the world and leave room. Elias cut a cedar board and punched it slowly. Maeve Tucker. He hung it level beside his own over the porch where shadow keeps wood from warping. Poole came up the path with the paper Maeve said she'd want when the stitches stopped tugging. He read it on the porch in a voice that did not trespass. Free woman. Elias listened like a man hearing rain reach root. Maeve held the sheet. A long breath, then folded it like a map you mean to use. The town set a day because towns like clean endings. Under the cottonwoods, with wind taking heat off the square, they built an arch out of willow and rope. Cross stood easy. Rifle leaned against a post like a guest who knows when to put it down. Lark brought a cake that leaned left and tasted right. Hale from the bank set a pen out like a truce. Maeve wore calico the color of creekstone and a thin rawhide braid at her wrist. Elias wore his good shirt that forgives bad dancing. They stood where sun met shade. Poole, who had learned his pauses from the weather, kept it short. "Do you choose?" he asked. "I do," Elias said. "I do," Maeve answered, and the Square believed her because belief had already been earned. She lifted their joined hands like a gate swinging free. They marked it with the right kind of quiet. No grand kiss, foreheads together, breath shared, eyes open. The bell rang once and sounded like a new hinge taking grease. Children ran the long way round the arch as if practicing escape for joy instead of fear. The door bar at home could rest. They made the marriage visible at work. He mended tack and fences. She kept children from coughing and men from mistaking willow for magic instead of medicine. He learned to cook beans without turning them into punishment. She learned to let a morning pass without checking the door twice. On Sundays, they sat by the creek without apology for being alive. Sometimes a newly freed girl came up the path with a scar that she thought was a verdict. Maeve poured water, set bread, and said the 3 rules she had earned hard. Name yourself. Daily put your hands to work that answers. Keep one witness who believes you. Elias would nod and set another chair near the stove that keeps. Word traveled farther than fear. When thunder tried the hills, the cupola gasped heat, and the roof held. When winter laid its hand on the grass, the house kindled its fire. The town kept its ledger straighter. This story made history, Poole said once half to himself, watching them lift hay as easily as vows. Not the newspaper kind, the kind that changes how a place breathes. That night, with chores finished and the creek remembering where it came from, Elias sanded her name board once more just because he could. Maeve set the clean paper in a Bible that now held only the truth they chose and turned the lamp low. The bar settled with its modest final sound. They slept under a roof they had argued into honesty. The wind ran the ridge and left the eaves in peace. Morning would arrive ready to be earned. They had the tools. If you want more clean, cinematic, frontier romances like this, tap subscribe and like so the next story finds you first.